So there were two turning points for me. There was the skiffle era. There was Cliff and the Shadows. Then there was the Beatles. And mixed in with those were people like Bacharach and David and Jimmy Webb, Billy Joel as well. You know, I was always writing Beatles songs, you know, and still am. But they don't sound like Beatles songs.
Now then, the Mockingbirds.
Yeah.
One of your first bands. And
Yeah.
Harry gets a song over to the Yardbirds.
That's right. Kevin Godley was in that band with me, so half of 10cc and the Mockingbirds. And we recorded, I'd written a few songs, and For Your Love was one of them. I should say something about For Your Love, in that one record that really blew me away was The Animals' House of the Rising Sun. That particular chord sequence, how can I say, has inspired me to write quite a lot of songs. It was the kind of opposite, sort of, you know, like I mentioned, C, A minor, F, G.
Right, so
well, this was A minor to C. It was kind of turned around.
Yeah.
C, A minor, C, D, F. And I just loved that sequence. And I used it on For Your Love, beginning of No Milk Today, Pamela, Pamela. Lots of songs I've written have that. It just works for me, you know.
Well,
it kind of,
you have
it's
infinite harmonic possibilities with that chord structure.
yeah, and it's different as well, and it's kind of slightly, it's dark as well, which I like. I like dark and melancholy as well as, you know, upbeat.
Now, what was, just out of curiosity, when you first heard the Yardbirds version of your composition, what did you feel?
I felt great. I thought it was inspired, particularly with the use of the harpsichord. Was amazing, because the demo was just an acoustic guitar playing those chords.
Right.
And I think it was Paul Sommer-Smith produced that record with Giorgio Gomolski, who was the Yardbirds manager. And I thought it was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Now, you were on a winning streak then. Heart Full of Soul, Bus Stop, Listen People, No Milk Today. What was it? Was just youthful exuberance? What was the key to your success, you think?
I don't know. It was the age I was at the time, what was going around me musically and going around everybody else. Because that sort of mid-60s period was so inventive, it was so fresh. You know, it was all going on, particularly with the Beatles, who were the sort of leaders. And so it was a very inspiring time. It was, and I was going, you know, I always say that, if people say, oh, it's wonderful that you did this, or you're so clever, it's nothing to do with cleverness, it's a gift. You know, you can't really teach songwriting. I mean, you can teach someone about structures, but why? Who needs any lessons? It's all instinctive anyway.
Yeah. Now, 10cc form, what was the chemistry between the four of you, Eric, Kevin, and Lowell? How did that come together?
Well, I knew Kevin Godley and Lowell Kareem from the JLB again.
Right.
And Kevin, Lowell and I used to jam together, not at the JLB, but Kevin's dad had a warehouse in the centre of Manchester. And we used to go there and play Ravel's Bolero for like an hour, like non-stop. That's what we did. And I guess it was during that period that the three of us kind of gelled together. Before then, Kevin and Lowell were very, very good close friends and collaborators anyway. And then I met Eric Stewart at the offices that Harvey Lisberg had. So I would go to Harvey's office, and people used to come in all the time because there was also quite a famous promoters there called Kennedy Street Enterprises, a guy called Danny Batesh, who is still promoting 10cc. I'm very happy to say. So this was kind of like a melting pot for all different people coming through all the time. And people would pop in and say, oh, hi, how are you doing? Have you got any songs? You know? And that's how I met Eric. And then Eric got me involved in a studio that he'd set up with a guy called Peter Tattersall. And they needed some, you know, money putting into it, and Eric asked me if I wanted to become a partner in it, which I did. And that was a great move, because without the studio, you know, I don't think 10cc would have existed. So the studio became the home for the four of us, in that Eric was engineering. I'd already been, by the way, in the Mindbenders with him for a very short period of time, for about 6 months, and then the band disbanded. And Eric's interest was really in studio work. So I got involved in that. Kevin and Lol came along. And so for a period of time, I was doing demos there. We kind of became the house band for loads of different artists. We were writing and recording records for football teams. We were doing anything because we loved it. And it didn't really matter that whether the music was our music or anybody else's. We just loved playing together and being in the studio. And then when the studio wasn't working, we would mess around and write some songs and record them.
Now everyone in 10cc is a multi-instrumentalist.
Yeah.
But you, Graham, you get saddled with the bass. How did that happen?
I don't mind getting saddled with the bass. Because no one else wanted the job again. I'm a guitarist, and I play guitar on quite a lot of the records anyway, but I started playing bass really out of necessity because I was making demos at home on a 2-track recorder, and I wanted to put some bass on. So it's not it's not a giant leap to from being a guitarist to being a bass player. But of course, this was at the time of Motown, James Jamerson, McCartney, John Paul Jones, who I worked with a lot during the 60s. So all these guys were in my head anyway. So, and I'm still playing licks that I nicked off John Paul Jones to this day.